Core blimey, I've been running around like a headless chook. I have to say that I was really impressed with the new Stranger Things Dungeons & Dragons starter set, and as a result I decided to put in a lot of time to sort of prepare sort of a rundown on how to run that adventure. I spent a couple of hours doing this, so if it seems a bit rushed, I hope it hasn't, but I feel like this is an adventure that you can run pretty easily. I don't feel like it's going to be terribly difficult for a new dungeon master, so I'm going to do my intro in a second, basically. Now, if you want to find the start time for this video, you'll find it down in the description, like I always do with my live streams. For this video, I do have some slides, and I have every intention of showing you the book, the adventure. I will be paging through the book. I'm going to do that near the end, rather than while I'm talking. How's it going, Darren? Hi. Now, I'm probably going to present absolutely everything first, and then, like I normally do, I will open it up for questions and answers and feedback. I'll make it clear now, I have not run this adventure. I haven't run it, but I've just prepared to run it. I've spent a couple of hours looking through the content and just sort of figuring out what I would do with it. And I thought I would do the video now rather than later. So a drink of water, clear my voice, settle down, and I'll get started. And we'll go from there. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons. In particular, I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5e and the new starter set. Now, for those of you who are unaware, there is a new Dungeons & Dragons starter set. I did a unboxing, there's been many reviews. So Stranger Things now has its own Dungeons & Dragons starter set, and so this is what this is all about. I'm actually going to do a Dungeon Master guide, so there will be spoilers in this video for the hunt for the Thessalhydra. That's right, the hunt for the Thessalhydra. So one of the things you're definitely going to have when you're starting out, and that is you will need a copy of the Stranger Things Dungeons & Dragons 5e starter set. If you don't have that, that's going to be a bit of a problem. Inside that starter set, you will find this little booklet or adventure, The Hunt for the Thessalhydra. It is in the new starter set, not in the old one. Don't get confused. There is no legal PDF or free PDF that is available on the internet, so you can't just download it for free and then run this adventure. You will have to actually go and buy it. I'm not going to give you links to illegal locations, so please don't ask in the comments later on. My advice to you is read through the adventure once. I don't feel like you'll have to do much more than that. You should be completely fine. It's about 22 pages. It's pretty easy to read, and those pages are not dense. It's a large print. It's not going to take you a lot of time to get to your head around it. So my advice, read through it at least once, and that should be more than adequate for running this adventure. You will also need to read and understand the core rules for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. So the rules are included in the starter set. That's that starter set rule book. It's well laid out. It just looks different to the original Dungeons & Dragons starter set. Okay, different artwork, pretty much the same content. There's a little bit of a difference in there, but pretty much the same sort of stuff. There's no errata issues that I currently know of, so don't concern yourself with that particular aspect of it. So don't go freaking out thinking you need to search the internet for errata, because at this present time I don't believe there is any to worry about. Now, when it comes to the pre-generated characters, there are 5 pre-generated character sheets that are included in the box set. I would suggest using those. That doesn't mean that you can't make your own characters. I would photocopy those particular character sheets though, rather than just use the originals, because they are hard stock card or hard stock paper, which means they're designed to last a long time. I would photocopy them and use copies of the originals rather than the originals. So I always find myself reusing character sheets, particularly if they're built well. Now, each one of these covers not necessarily the core classes. The 4 core classes are the rogue, the wizard, the cleric, the fighter. Instead, what we get is we get a ranger, a wizard, a paladin, a cleric, and a bard. Now, none of these characters have any connection to the adventure, so you're going to probably have to have at least a short session 0. That would be my advice to you. I'm not saying you need to have a long session 0. That needs to take a huge amount of time, but it's going to make it a little bit awkward. And if you find that your players don't want to use the pre-generated character sheets and they want to build their own character, then you need to have the characters start off at level 3. Because this adventure and this starter box doesn't start at level 1 or level 2, you're starting at level 3. I know that sounds a bit odd, but that's essentially what the designers decided was a better option for this particular adventure, and I can kind of understand why, considering the types of monsters and creatures you're going to be dealing with. Now, I would also, during that session 0, since there isn't really any good connections, unlike the original Dungeons & Dragons starter set, each of the pre-generated characters had like a backstory or a goal connected to them that allowed them to tie themselves into the existing story, which was great. It meant that a dungeon master didn't have to figure that out. This adventure doesn't do that. There's so little there. So try to establish with the players what their friendship is with their character between the patron, who is Sir Tristan. Sir Tristan is the ruler of the land that you're going to be exploring very shortly. So make sure they have a connection rather than we just assume we're friends and that's it. So I would get them to make some stuff up. You as the dungeon master don't need to do that. Get the players to say, how is it that you are friends with Tristan, and what was that adventure that you did earlier for Sir Tristan or with Sir Tristan that formed that first bond or friendship? That would be my advice to you. You could maybe, if you wanted to, photocopy some blank character sheets for your players' characters, but I feel like that's really not necessary, considering, I feel like that's the responsibility of a player rather than the dungeon master. A lot of this stuff is pretty standard, and you've probably heard this sort of thing from me before. You can use the monster stat blocks straight out of the back of the Dungeons & Dragons starter set rulebook. They're not included in the back of the adventure, which means you don't have to worry about flipping back and forth. Instead, you can have both books opened out and you'll be able to access everything pretty easily. So no photocopying, no making up index cards, none of that nonsense. And if you really want to make notes, you can, but I had a look at the adventure. I really don't feel like you need to make any notes whatsoever. But if you do, then post-it notes are always handy and you can bullet point things as you go and just stick them where you need them to be. There are sections in the adventure that actually quite large sections of the adventure book that have space for writing notes. But I don't really feel like writing all over my adventure book, just in case I decide to sell it or give it to somebody else. I would start off with having a basic understanding of monsters. So basic understanding of the monsters and their tactics. I've done a few videos on different monsters that you can go and check out if you want to. But if you're not in a position to watch my videos, or it doesn't cover a video for a particular monster that you're going to be running in this particular adventure, that's all right. You can look down in the description for this video and you can check out a website called The Monsters Know, and the person on there does articles and blogs on monster tactics for Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and you should be able to find quite a lot of really useful advice on how to run your monsters in your game when you're doing your hunt for the Thessalhydra. I would advise at least reading over the monster stat blocks if you're not familiar with them already, just so you know how their abilities and their attacks work, how they function. All that sort of stuff is kind of important. Otherwise you'll wind up doing everything well apart from the combat side of things. And the combat side of Dungeons & Dragons is always the hardest part. Okay, I'm not going to say that Stranger Things is a fantastic TV show. I actually enjoyed it, but I might suggest to you that going and watching some of the Stranger Things Netflix series might help you get a feel for the adventure you're about to run. Now, it's not a direct It's not like you're running the story of the kids, okay, from the Stranger Things Netflix TV series. You're running an adventure which supposedly Mike Wheeler created. But it's not really the adventure that Mike Wheeler created, because as far as I can tell, there are a whole lot of things, beasts and creatures that don't sort of match up. So my suggestion to you is go and watch that stuff and pick out the bits that sort of make sense to you. The feel of the TV series will help you in later aspects of the adventure, because not all of this adventure should be dark and brooding like the TV series. So yes, that might help a little bit. This adventure is supposed to cover from levels 3 through to level 5. I don't know and can't confirm right now whether that is in fact true. Once I've run it, I will know more. I would suggest photocopying the maps included in the adventure, or you just draw up your own and if you want to. All that sort of stuff is sort of sensible stuff to do, just so you don't wind up sort of trying to draw it on the fly. If you prepare that sort of stuff ahead of time, it makes it a lot easier. You might want to also select a basic location or kingdom for the adventure to be set in, because there's no advice or suggestions in the adventure about where you might set this particular adventure. It just says in a mountain location, and that's really not hugely helpful if the players start asking you tricky questions. So that would be my advice to you, is sort of, you could use the Far Realm, you could use the Forgotten Realms, you could use Eberron, you could, whatever it is, whatever world, you could use your own homebrew world or something that you'll make up. It's up to you. This is a very easy adventure to run. I don't really feel like you're going to find yourself out of your comfort zone. In terms of a first starter Dungeons & Dragons adventure to run, I'm really quite impressed. Now, as all of the other gear that goes with being a dungeon master, it's up to you whether you get the other books or miniatures or tokens or maps, or just use other stuff, or get dice or pens and mats and all that sort of thing. You don't need any of that stuff. Just because I've shown you a picture of all the stuff that I've used in the past doesn't mean you need to have a Dungeon Master screen or anything like that. Just use what you think you can get away with and what you have around, okay? Later on, when you are doing this a lot more and you're more interested in that sort of thing, and you have the income and the desire to spend that money, then fine. But right now, it's really not important. Okay, let's get into the story itself and have a discussion. Right, first off, the basic story is that Sir Tristan, the ruler of a very small kingdom, asks the players' characters to find and kill the Thessalhydra, who has essentially been giving this kingdom a lot of trouble, as you would expect, really. This thing has multiple heads, snake heads on it, a great huge maw in it, a nasty sort of pincer thing on it. And the picture itself right now that I'm showing you is not a completely accurate depiction of the creature. I've just pulled this off the internet to show you for now. Please remember, when you're going through and introducing Sir Tristan, remember that greedy players get no magic items. The extra stuff they get are the magic items. And 100 gold pieces each is a fair deal for hunting down this thing. They are only level 3. They're not. It's not like it's a small amount of money. It's actually quite a large amount of money. Now, if you give away to the player that you might get more if you aren't greedy and try to negotiate the price up, well, they can negotiate the price up if they want to with Sir Tristan. But I wouldn't sort of play on that. I wouldn't let them follow that route. It seems like a very easy route, and you wind up training your players into being murder hobos rather than being a player with a bigger and more desirable, healthy way of playing the game. I'm not saying that that sort of play isn't good, but we don't want to encourage it. So remember, if they haven't been too greedy, good, they take the price, then give them some more. And they get quite a few different magic items as it happens. Bags of holding and magic sword, all that sort of stuff, potions of healing, all really useful for what they're about to do. Now, the rumors on the road don't all have to be used. There is about 4 of them. They're very, very quick and simple. They're there to present the illusion of exploring a location to get them to where they need to be. This whole adventure is pretty much a train. You just follow the trail, and if they don't follow the trail, you can just move the trail wherever the players are going. It's not designed to be sandboxy. It's not a sandbox adventure at all. So my suggestion to you is don't use all of them if you feel like they're getting bored, but there is only 4, and there's nothing really sort of wrong with them. They're all pretty good as far as I'm concerned. The troglodyte caverns will offer a selection of different options. It's a very simple location. It offers combat. It offers the opportunity to just have a social interaction and form alliances with the troglodytes, or just get the information they require without actually engaging in a battle. So let them pursue those avenues if they want to, or in many cases they don't even have to engage in battle or in a social interaction. They may be able to just sneak past a lot of the different rooms and locations where creatures are, troglodytes in particular, to get to the cursed labyrinth. Now the cursed labyrinth can be a bit confusing. When I looked at it, I was reading it through and I was thinking, okay, it could prove to be confusing and time-consuming, not so much for the dungeon master. It's actually well laid out. It's not confusing for you as a dungeon master, but it might prove to be confusing for the players, particularly as it's a magic location. It's a magic maze, essentially. And so with the fact that it's magic and the fact that it's random and you're rolling a 20-sided dice with multiple outcomes from that, it could take them some time to get through it, and it might prove to be confusing for them. So be ready to change things around if you need to get them to move on and they start getting stuck. You don't want them to get stuck. So don't use too many of the special encounters if you are really rolling anywhere near a 12 or a 14. Between 12 and 14 is the special encounter on the D20. Everything else is just moving you through the location, the labyrinth itself. So if you find yourself very rarely rolling a 12, a 13, or a 14, then just make sure that they encounter the lost night. That lost night is where we want to get them to. That's the whole point. Keep them moving. Don't get stuck. Now, the lost night is probably the second most important NPC in this adventure. There's only like 3 major NPCs in the whole adventure, and then you're done. It's going to take you a very short space of time to get through this. Now, the Lost Knight, his or her riddles could slow down or trip up a group who aren't very good at puzzles. So make sure to give them clues. If they get stuck, give them a clue. One of the riddles actually provides you with some clues that you can give to get them through that particular riddle. The second one, the first one, so the second one's got some clues. The first one, not so much. So you might find yourself as a dungeon master, if they're taking too long to get through it, to sort of start dropping a few hints. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Remember, it's a starter set. Chances are that people are playing for the very first time. Okay? The knight can get them out of the maze. This magic maze or magic labyrinth or the cursed labyrinth, this particular knight can get them out. And as long as they get through those 2 riddles, we're all ready to move on to the next part of the adventure, which is going to be transporting them to the upside down world. This is the same world that was included or a key feature of the Stranger Things TV series for the characters in that particular story. Not the Dungeons and Dragons adventure they were playing, but the actual TV series itself. So they've mixed a whole lot of different aspects to it. So the upside down world is a place of strange horror. So just try to scare the players. You don't have to drop a whole lot of random encounters or have a whole lot of battles or fights with creatures in there. That's actually going to cause a lot of problems because they can't really heal without magic in this location. They can't just take a short rest. They can't take a long rest. So dumping a whole lot of combats on them is going to make things really, really difficult. I would suggest to you, given that they have 2 major creatures that they have to fight, that it would be smart to not do that sort of thing. So don't drop a whole lot of creatures. This is a place that actually has mostly just atmosphere rather than anything else. Don't forget, if they have been good and not too greedy, don't forget that Winter's Dark Bite, the sword, they have that. And in the Upside Down world, it's going to give them a huge bonus. It's like a +4 great sword in the Upside Down, which is really, really useful. So we want them to benefit from that, particularly when they're fighting the Demogorgon, which of course they will have to be able to get out of the Upside Down world. You can go into the troglodyte caverns, you can get into the cursed labyrinth, but there's only one way in, and there's no way of getting back into the cursed labyrinth. You have to go forward, okay? You have to keep going forward to get out. You can't turn around and go back the other way. It's not going to work. So ensure that if one of the players have that, remind them to use it, particularly when they start getting into trouble. They're going to meet their third major NPC in this location, in the Upside Down world. It's like a strange warrior who's, for whatever reason, the Proud Princess. They're going to meet the Proud Princess. She's like an epic warrior who can advise them, and as long as they follow her advice and they don't attack her or do something foolish like try to hang out with her, everything will be fine. Attacking the Proud Princess will only result in them being frustrated and burning up resources. So I think it's got to be you as the Dungeon Master making it clear that a fight with her is pointless. The problem is, it's a princess, it's a woman, and if she has a big sparkly sword that looks really impressive, they may be tempted to try and take it from her, particularly if you have players who've been playing far too many video games. So make it clear to them that she's been living in this location for a very, very long time. In fact, chances are, and there's not a lot of information on the Proud Princess, chances are that she has never aged and she's been there for a millennia. Who knows? No way of knowing. But the information they can get from the Proud Princess is information on the Upside Down world and how it works, the Demogorgon and how to get its blood, the Thessalhydra and where its lair is positioned. Once they get that information out of her, she no longer really has a part to play. I know some of the players will probably try to get their characters to convince her to come along with them so that she can help them. But that's not her goal, and there's nothing that they can do to stop her from not going on her way. So she doesn't explore with them, she doesn't go adventuring with them, she is there essentially just to provide information. She's like a road sign, essentially. Now, the Demogorgon, which is, now, it's not the original Dungeons & Dragons Demogorgon, okay? This is what the kids in the Stranger Things TV series called the Demogorgon. So it's the flower creature. It's essentially a Resident Evil monster that we've seen many, many times before, and it's just been appropriated and used for this particular purpose, and it's worked out pretty well so far. Now, the Demogorgon could be a hard fight. So if they need to flee or run for whatever reason because they're in trouble, let them flee and run from the Demogorgon. Okay, don't let the Demogorgon sort of hunt them down and finish them off, which of course it probably could do, and pretty effectively, and every round that passes, this thing's got regeneration, okay? If it regenerates and they're running, then it's going to be at full health, full ability to do all sorts of nasty things. So let them run away and get away if they need to. The lair. Now once they get the blood of the Demogorgon onto, because they need a monstrosity of some kind, once they get it onto the flower that they have to find, which only exists in this world and other parts of the material world, that will lead them to the lair for the Thessalhydra. Now the Thessalhydra map itself, it's actually quite small, it's short, there are a number of different creatures that protect this location, but they can usually be avoided, not so much negotiated with, but there is a way of completely avoiding them provided they follow the right route and they don't have a lot of bad luck. I mean, that's essentially it, really, what we're working towards. The last battle, try to make the Thessalhydra as hard as you can, because it is the final goal. It's the final beast. It's the climax for your adventure. It's the reason that they're going off adventuring in the first place, to help Sir Tristan get rid of this horrible creature. It is pretty dangerous. I had a look at it, and it's quite possible to cause a lot of pain to a new party of players. So be a little bit careful, but I wouldn't hold back too much. The spit acid option, use that as much as you possibly can, because provided they don't separate too much, you can target multiple characters with this thing, because it's like an area effect. So it makes a lot of sense. You'll have to pick and choose the abilities that you use. It does have legendary actions, so make sure to use its tail attack. So don't forget, that's a reaction. You do that on somebody else's turn at the end of their turn when they've had their turn. And that'll be a player character who takes their turn to sort of do that particular part of it. And that sort of covers most of the information that you need for this adventure. I know that sounds like very, very little, but the honest truth is, this is really simple. It shouldn't be difficult for you to run through. In fact, it should be really, really easy. And I would imagine it's going to take you maybe one session of, say, 4 hours or maybe 5 hours. I think somebody had mentioned they ran this adventure. It took them about 5 hours to get it done, and the players had a great time, which is really good news. So now I'm going to quickly leaf through this adventure booklet so you can see, and then we'll be finished. Okay, so this is the adventure here. Okay, this is the hunt for the Thessalhydra. Our first page is really just an introduction talking about how to be a dungeon master here, which is, I think this is really simple. There's nothing much to it. They've really broken things down and tried to eliminate a lot of extra words they didn't need to put there in the first place. They explain the whole story here. The whole story is right here. That's it. Really, really good. This talks about Sir Tristan and their involvement with him. And then if we flip over to the next page, it's the gifts. What do they get from Sir Tristan for their efforts? This is their 100 gold pieces each, and the different magic items, and how to approach that. It's laid out really simply. There's nothing you can get wrong with this. Then we have our roomers as they're traveling the road, or they might not necessarily be traveling on the road. They might be exploring a cavern or a forest or the wilderness or the mountains, trying to find this creature. And these are people that they can come across and provide sort of information. They've listed it as rumors, but it's just essentially information. Some of it's correct and some of it's not. And next page is the troglodyte caverns, which I just talked about before. You can see each of the areas. Super simple. It's like a couple of sentences. In most cases, you'd be lucky to get 3 sentences for each area. That's how simple it is. There are some calls to make ability checks or skill checks. My suggestion is that these are the locations where you want to put a post-it note or a note on that page about how to approach that. It gives you lots of really good advice in the basic Dungeons & Dragons starter set rulebook, which I'll pull out and show you briefly once I've gone through this. So it's only a couple of pages, and then we're moving on to the Cursed Labyrinth. Now the Cursed Labyrinth, the instructions for how to do it are here. So it's really simple. Any of the special encounters that you use during your Cursed Labyrinth exploration are listed over here. One of those is going to be coming across the Lost Knight, this knight that they have to basically answer 2 riddles. If they answer the 2 riddles and get past those, he will show them the way forward. That's essentially how they get out of this magic maze. And you can see right here, I think that the riddles themselves have got more juice and material in them than the rest of the adventure. There's like 2 pages donated to the Lost Knight, which I thought was quite impressive. And then talks about the upside down world, which is basically just a dark forest. I think that's the easiest way to describe it. Like I said, if you check out the TV series, that'll give you a whole lot of additional information. The information that basically the sword information was already further forward in the book. It's just under the section where Tristan gives them the gifts, the extra magic items. But it then reminds you here that you have a sword that the players might be able to benefit from, provided they haven't been too greedy. They might have that sword. So it's just a reminder, this page. I know, a lot of blank space. The upside down world encounters. Now, you'll notice there's no talk about combat, and that's quite deliberate. The intention is to scare the players and give them the feeling of being uneasy and in a place that's alien. That's what you're aiming for. They will come across the Proud Princess, which is here, and how to run her is detailed, and the information she can provide. She doesn't, as I said, provide them with any kind of real help other than information. That's it. And once they have found out they have to get the blood of a monstrosity, and she points them in the direction of the Demogorgon, then they'll have to track it down and fight it, get some of its blood. They do not have to kill the thing completely. That's not necessary. Once they combine that with a flower, that will get them to the lair of the Thessalhydra. And as I said, this is just a collection of, there's an ooze, there's some troglodytes. It's not a huge amount of stuff. And if they're smart, they could get past a lot of this and just deal with the Thessalhydra, which is the main threat, this horrible beastie here. And that's it. That's really all I have. Now, if you have run this adventure before, please share with me what your experience was. I would be very interested to know. By all means, do so. Let me know how it went for you. Now, if you found this useful in any way, please share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. If you want to support my channel, you did so by watching this video. I have hundreds more for players and dungeon masters, and you're welcome to go and check those out. I'm sure they will be helpful to you. Now, I am all but done. So, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Oh, and by the way, I do have affiliate links down in the description, where you can purchase this particular box set if you want to. Okay, I'm not gone. I'm just switching things around. Okay, just give me a second. I've just been talking for the last half hour. I was trying not to be too long about this, but I feel like how many people are likely to do a video on this? Well, I know how many people. It'll probably just be me until somebody discovers that it's a good idea. Anyway, so I'll go through the chat and we'll have a look what we've got. We've got Darren's here. Chelsea Watson. I hope I've got it right. If I've pronounced your name incorrectly, let me know. I will switch back to the actual webcam. So if you guys want me to flip to different pages, let me know and I will do that, okay? All right, there we go. Excited to sit in on a live feed. Yeah, well, if you haven't been to one, welcome. I'm glad you were able to make it. Jan Shivik, how's it going? But isn't Stranger Things set in a modern time? Yes, I know what you mean. It's what they've done is they've taken elements of the TV series and they've taken elements of the Dungeons and Dragons setting and they've taken elements from what we saw being played as Dungeons and Dragons by the kids and they've combined it all. So it's kind of like a big, huge stew rather than... It's not the actual adventure that Mike Wheeler ran in the TV series. I think that's the easiest way to explain it. How's it going, Matt? It's set in the early 80s. Yeah. That's essentially the concept behind it. Paul Coy. How's it going, Paul? I Xerox lots of stuff as DM because I am the most organised person at my table. I brought 3 ring binders for each of my players and filled them with copies of all relevant class and race information. Oh my gosh, Paul, you really do work hard. Jan Shivik. So it's using D&D modern rules? It's using the Dungeons and Dragons 5e rules. It's the same rule set, it's just a second Dungeons and Dragons 5e starter set with a different adventure and a rule book which is slightly differently, it's laid out differently, but it's essentially the same stuff. So yes, it uses the 5e rules. But the monster, the Thessalhydra, as Darren has pointed out, is a monster from Dungeons and Dragons 1E. Now, the thing with that is you'll find that the original Thessalhydra is a pretty nasty beast. The one that they have presented in the stat block in the actual rulebook for this adventure has been tamed down considerably. It's not the same. It's it's watered down a lot. Okay, Paul, what do we got here? Plus, if someone can't make it, I can run the PC as an NPC easily because all of the info is here where I can put it. I just feel like this is actually a really good way to get people started. The only thing that I'm worried about is the fact they are starting at level 3 rather than at level 1, because there is a lot of additional complexity when you are running the adventure and playing with a character at level 3. That's just how it works. Bromos Sunstar Ranger. The cursed labyrinth can be frustrating your players if you drag this part out too long. Yeah, I think that's exactly what I was noticing. I thought that would be one of the areas that could really mess things up. So don't let it drag out too much, particularly if they start getting frustrated and they don't know what the heck they're doing. Don't spend a lot of time with your descriptions. Matt Nerdy. Laugh out loud, that's the creature you asked about in AJ's stream. Yes, I did. I was in the middle of... I think he was more focused on dealing with the Underdark and Drow and stuff like that. So I didn't get an answer because I have no idea. I don't really know very much about the Thessalhydra, but I figured he would. We'll see how we go. I'll do some research. At some point I will have to do some research on the creature, won't I? Bromos Sunstar. Remember, the point of this is to finish. Get through the adventure quickly. New players don't have the attention span. Veteran players do. New players are judging whether they like the game or not. That's exactly right, Ranger. You know, it's one of the most important aspects to this particular adventure and playing in the starter adventure is to make sure that they are moving forward rather than getting stuck. Is there an echo? Oh, there shouldn't be an echo. Why is there an echo? Let me just check. No. I'm just checking. There shouldn't be an echo. It should be all fine. If anybody else is getting an echo, let me know. I don't think there is. I don't understand if there would be, because I did check before I started. What's that, Ranger? The adventure is classic D&D, combat, puzzles, item hunt, and big bad boss, very fun. Well, I think that's a good thing. Yeah. Sector Black, hello. Oh, okay. Okay, I get it. Hello. I get it. I thought there was an echo. Chelsea Watson. I hope I got your name right. Sea is an ocean. Well, yeah, okay. Sea is an ocean. Okay, I get it, I guess. Darren, I'm picking up one when they become available here in Canada. Yeah, I know. It's not available in New Zealand. I had to buy it from Amazon. And I think yesterday I did mention I paid 27 New Zealand dollars to get it shipped to New Zealand. It cost me about $17 to get it shipped, and I paid about $10 for the actual box itself. I don't know if that's standard. I have no idea. But yeah, as soon as it becomes available, I really think it's worth your time. And I will be getting my group to run through this adventure at some point. How's it going, Brent? Late again. We'll watch later, and I'll probably pick this up and try it with friends. Yeah, look. Is it worth your money? It's a short adventure. Will you get to reuse it? Probably not necessarily. So yeah, if you don't mind paying the money, it does look like a really clever adventure to run. I just don't know if it's necessarily worth all of the money, particularly if you have to get it shipped. Oh, Darren, you're in a similar situation on shipping, Fred. Okay, yeah. The shipping is gonna just blow you out of the water. If you have to pay for shipping as well, that's really, really tough. Yeah. So yeah, you're not getting the kind of adventure with the Lost Mine of Phandelver. It's not the same thing, because you can play for weeks. You know, if you come in every week, it's going to take you a while to get through that adventure, and it gives you a lot of meat. Whereas this is actually giving you a very streamlined adventure. Okay. I'm going to finish there. I think that's covered everything that we needed to, and I'm going to go say, I'll check out you're welcome to check out other stuff that I've done. I'm sure there'll be something you'll find useful. But anyway, have a good night, good day, good morning, good afternoon. Look after your family, look after yourself, and I will catch you in the next live stream, which will probably be quite some time from now because I am very tired.